Man, I love Into the Wild. I've watched it a dozen times, and it's one of my most favorite movies of all time. But it is lacking historically. Hey, Cypher here. Most people think that you can't criticize what you like, but yeah, you definitely can. So make no mistake, this is a great movie, just not a great historical movie. This review will ruin the movie's most poignant scene, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's well worth it and you are missing out. Sean Penn's cinematography and Eddie Vedder's soundtrack are amazing. I did a lot of research into this one, so I've got a lot to say. Most of the errors with this movie may also be found in the book that it's based on. There hasn't been the typical bickering of filmmakers against fact-checkers, so this is wholly forgivable. There is way more correct than false in the book, but it should be noted that Krakauer, the author, wrote journalistically and without citation, making it an unreliable source at best. Furthermore, Krakauer's dodgy defense of the book's veracity has been fairly ridiculous. Christopher McCandless was consulted during filming, so some things were cross-verified. Something many people don't understand about the journey here is that it is clearly a philosophical quest for meaning. Now, I'm not going to argue with the idiots who complain about Chris McCandless being sniveling and infantile for his journey. That betrays a great deal of ignorance, but it is unfortunate that the movie is ambiguous enough to have such insipid stupidity flung at it. I like ambiguity a lot, but being a little more explicit in McCandless's motivations would be helpful. He does explain it himself in his journals, so why not in the movie? While intelligent people understand this not-so-subtle allusion, it is misunderstood by many. I just have to say, McCandless was certainly living the transcendentalist ideals laid out by Henry David Thoreau, but why does nobody seem to talk about the cynics who inspired that movement? Thoreau and Emerson certainly do. I'd say McCandless is much more close to true cynicism rather than transcendentalism. Or perhaps a real Huckleberry Finn-style American Odyssey. But that is the wonderful thing about Sean Penn's directing here. It is ambiguous enough not to tell. There's a lot misrepresented in the McCandless family. Some of it is purposeful in order to not be too severe. People nevertheless complained that it is not enough or too much. I'm just going to rapid fire a few of the differences. Walt was active with both families simultaneously for many years, not one like in the movie. Both families knew of each other early on. It was not a surprising revelation, it was a boiling secret below the surface that everyone knew. All the siblings were familiar with each other, and alimony payments were being made, though Walt failed to be proactive with them. Physical and verbal abuse is reported by both sides of the family, and to a worse extent than depicted in the film. Chris's parents did not buy the Datsun for him. He earned enough money as a salesman in high school to buy it himself. Chris continued to participate in the family, even going on a cruise the winter before his Odyssey, but the siblings could all see that Chris was going to leave beforehand. Chris McCandless had been doing several long trips between semesters long before his final one. He was well known for disappearing for months at a time during the summer. The suddenness of the trips seems odd without that preparatory detail. The initial car trip actually went all over the nation before he ended up in the Arizona Wash. Funny enough, the car was refurbished and used as an undercover vehicle for the local police. He did burn his money, even taking a picture of it. He did not get rid of his license or social security card. Many documents were found with his backpack, including the social security card, birth certificate, and an up-to-date driver's license. Part of the reason for this falsehood is because the newspapers covering the original story did not follow up on the discovery of McCandless's backpack, which the Rangers did not find on their first pass. He had a camera with him the whole way, and took pictures of his travels all over the place. I can't verify the kayak trip. There is insufficient information to consider this to be true. I also can't verify the stories of Tracy Tatro or Russell Fritz, who's named Ron Hamilton in the book. That doesn't mean Krakauer lied, just that I can't verify what he says. McCandless was picked up by Jan Burez, but he was just sitting down reading at the time. She actually commented that he was the laziest hitchhiker she had ever seen. Something the film does not depict is the fact that he was arrested at least once for hitchhiking. Something the movie does in order to condense time is make it seem like each place he visited was an insular event. One example of this is how he seems to become sedate in South Dakota, but he actually kept traveling using Wayne's truck on a number of occasions. Unlike the movie, Wayne Westberg was actually fairly happily convinced of Chris's ambition to travel to Alaska. Wayne even offered to buy tickets, but Chris wanted to travel by land. Though the movie wants to separate the subplots of Ron and Slab City, they were not so easily separated. It almost seems cruel how McCandless spurs Jan and goes out on his own again. If you consider that where he was, near the Salton Sea, it's pretty damn close to the Slab City. This is to save cinematic time, but McCandless actually visited on several occasions, and the two stories are intertwined chronologically. The map being left on purpose is disputable, and Krakauer's telling of it changed from his first article to the actual book. Furthermore, McCandless actually did have a map at the Magic Bus, which is listed among his possessions. There's some problems that get raised by this map, though. After he gets blocked by the river in the spring, why didn't he just travel a few miles south, where there was a crossing? We don't know how detailed the map that he had was, so he might not have known of it, but he had interacted with passing people on the trail months earlier, so he didn't really have any excuse, save for possibly being too weakened by hunger to walk, which he wrote in his journal only a few days later. He was not only starving, but also injured. He put out a sign that said so. Analysis of his handwriting indicates that he might have had a dislocated shoulder. We don't know for sure, but the movie doesn't even show the sign. McCandless knew that he was dying, so he wrote a final letter and took a picture of it. The plaque that is currently on the bus is actually quoting that letter. The movie depicts a carved block, but I couldn't find any evidence of that. Maybe they just didn't want to explain the camera, despite showing one of the actual photos in the movie. The final death of McCandless has inspired unending debate. The way it is depicted in the movie is most certainly incorrect, though. Some people say it was poisoning, including McCandless himself in the journal, while the vast majority of experts, including Krakauer's consultant and the coroner, say it was just simple starvation. This is part of people saying he was just a stupid kid. But that form of ends over means morality is inadequate for analyzing McCandless's life. That was a lot to go over. Most of the movie's problems are entirely forgivable, though. There really isn't much misrepresentation, though. So, this is still one of my favorite movies of all time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out some previous episodes while you're at it. I'll see you next time.